There's Simmons. Yes! He did it! Ben
Tonight. There is one thing that I wanted to react to that I have been holding out for quite some time. I've been holding out on this video for quite some time. And about time for me to watch it. You know what I mean? Shout out, you know what? As a matter of fact, before I even watch this, shout out all my ball knowers in the chat. You know what I mean? If you know who this is, shout out to you, bro. Shout out all my ball knowers in the chat. The NBA season's cooking up, and my boy Jimmy High Roller, he's cooking up too. You know what I mean? The greatest MVP race of our time. Y'all, you know what it is, man. Look, I wanted to save this for stream specifically, so here we go.
We are now just a few weeks away from the end of the 2025 NBA regular season, and by this point, the MVP race is usually all but wrapped up. But what do you do when there's two MVPs? History
there really is.
Vote for the guy who was leading his team to the most wins of any team in a decade while putting up prime Michael Jordan numbers.
Now the thing is, I've seen I think I seen his video that he did last year. And the huge question on like the MVP debate is like, do you typically give it to the best player in the league, or do you give it to the best player on the best team? Right. That's been the debate for quite some time. So I wonder how he's going to look at this one, because like these two are like, it's literally 1A, 1B when it comes to MVP this year.
Player on the best team, which should make this decision pretty obvious, except it's not. Because history has never seen a season like the one Nikola Jokic is having. It's
exactly.
Better than this one, and this one, and this one. In fact, it is possibly the most impactful season anyone has ever had.
He's honestly been cooking all year.
And only one trophy.
He's been cooking all year.
MVP race in recent history, and it has.
I think they give it to Shea this year just off voters fatigue.
Left voters completely torn, questioning what it even means to be the NBA's most valuable player.
I think they give it to Shea. What y'all thinking? Let me know what y'all think.
Today's video is sponsored.
Sorry, Jimmy. Love you, buddy.
Now,
all right.
The most compelling case someone can make to be the most valuable
Jokic MVP for real?
The best numbers in the league.
I don't know. Not truly a question.
Recipe, but it's a big one. And right now, Jokic and Shea aren't just having the two best seasons in the NBA. They're having two of the best seasons of all time. Just looking at some simple box score numbers, Nikola Jokic jumps off the screen like the obvious favorite. A near triple-double on nearly the best efficiency in the entire league. And
this is scary. 41.3% from the three. Good lord.
Never be top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists. Numbers that make Shea's season look a bit pedestrian.
Oh my gosh, I just gained the YouTube sub. Appreciate my boy Killer Crossover with the YouTube sub, man. If y'all haven't already, make sure y'all go check out the second channel LOB archive and the main channel LOB if you haven't already, man.
33, 5, and 6 on at least 60% true shooting is a stat line that has only been achieved by 3 other players in the history of the NBA. Michael Jordan, James Harden, and Luka Doncic across 5 different seasons. Although none of them were as efficient from the floor as Shea is this season. However, box score numbers by themselves have never been quite enough to compel voters. Of these 5 previous seasons, only one of them ended up winning the MVP.
And that was Harden
in '88. And to pull it off,
because he didn't win, because Harden didn't win MVP these years. No, he got yeah, okay.
He had to also be the best defensive player in the league.
Yes, okay, that's the thing. That's fair.
In the case of Jokic, there's only been one season in modern NBA history that compares to his. Russell Westbrook in 2017.
In which he was on fire, Brody.
MVP, receiving 69 of the total 101 first place votes.
That year was crazy.
The difference between these two seasons, the mile-wide gap in their efficiency. Nearly a decade and some of the most absurd statistical seasons later, and the upgraded version of Westbrook's MVP season not only doesn't warrant a runaway victory for the award, it may not even win it. But these numbers hardly even scratch the surface of the impact and value these two provide every game. If we take a deeper look into some of their more advanced numbers, we can see just how remarkable Shea and Jokic have been this season and why the MVP race is as close as it is. To put into perspective the caliber of season these two are having, LeBron at his absolute statistical peak had a box plus minus of 13.24. Steph Curry at his absolute best had a BPM of 11.94. This season, Jokic has a box plus minus of 13.21, and Shea is at
Christ.
11.58. Choosing between Jokic and SGA this
Jesus.
season is like picking between 09 LeBron and 2016 Steph. Good luck. For the last half decade, Jokic has led the league in just about every advanced metric by about a mile. But this season, Shea has threatened Jokic's spot and even dethroned him at times as the best player in the league.
I think the biggest thing is though is that like when you look at Jokic's MVP seasons, there's never been a doubt like Jokic makes his teammates better. You feel me? Like there's never been a doubt whenever you watch Jokic play on the floor. Appreciate you, my boy Flicks with the follow. Okay, new account. Got you. What's good, buddy? What's good, buddy? Look, I think that when it comes to Jokic, like every single year that he's won the MVP, it's always like, oh, the Nuggets have been better. Like, you know what I mean? But like when it comes to Shea, like he's always been an offensive scoring output. But I feel like over these past couple of years, his play has just made the team better, which is why he gets talked about more in these MVP conversations, because how he's building OKC with his success. You know what I mean? In the same way that Jokic does. But this year, this race is getting neck and neck. It's getting too close.
That in and of itself is probably the most impressive thing he's done all season. On any given night, either one of them can look like the most impactful player on the planet. And even looking at advanced numbers, the edge is only slightly in Jokic's favor. Crafted NBA has Jokic as the best player in the NBA this season, with Shea right behind him, and then a really big gap, and then everyone else. Estimated plus minus, on the other hand, has Shea as the best player in the league this season, with Jokic right behind him, and then huge gap, everyone else. A quick glance at these catch-all statistics will tell you that Jokic and SGA are both historically and almost equally.
You could give it to either one, and I feel like you couldn't be wrong.
For those who are put to the difficult task of choosing between Jokic and SGA for MVP, these numbers have never been a direct indication of who will or who should win the award. Over the last 2 decades, the best or most impactful player in the NBA in any given season, according to some of the best advanced metrics, ended up winning the MVP award only about half of the time. Many times, these are cases where the individual numbers were backed with regular season team success, but rarely have the numbers alone, regardless of how great they were, been enough to be crowned the most valuable player in the league. In fact, if putting up the best stats automatically made a player the MVP, voting for the award wouldn't even be necessary. So in terms of sheer individual numbers, there isn't a very compelling case to be made in either direction. Jokic's number. And
isn't it crazy to think that two of the best players in the NBA right now, or at least the two candidates for MVP, aren't even from the US.
Are better, but without more context,
not even from the US.
Game to game is virtually the same.
It shows how much the game has changed, especially in other countries.
How are these performances impacting their team? And to what extent does their historic production lead their team to success?
Good block. Good Lord. All right, part 2. Yep.
In most cases, when two players are having incredible seasons, the tiebreaker in the eyes of fans and voters comes down to how well their team is playing. The second ingredient to the MVP recipe: win and win often. 25 of the last 30 MVPs went to players who clinched either the first or second seed in their conference. And right now, the Thunder aren't just winning more games than the Nuggets. They are the 4th highest winning team in modern NBA history. But recently, team success has held less weight in the MVP discussion than it has in the past. 3 of the last 4 MVPs going to players outside of the top 2 seeds. Nikola Jokic being just the 2nd player in over 40 years to win the MVP, despite his team not even cracking 50 wins in a full season.
And what year was it? What year was it? It was 2023 and they won the chip, and he didn't even win MVP that year.
The voters have made the decision that the MVP isn't limited to simply the best player on the best team, but rather the player who has the largest impact on a winning team. And right now, there is one player in basketball who is impacting the game far more than anyone else. Here are the current top 8 leaders in the MVP race: Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Tatum, Mitchell, Curry, Mobley, and LeBron. And here are the net ratings of each of their teams. Shea has put on a masterclass all season, leading the Thunder to be not just the most dominant team this season, but the 2nd most dominant regular season team in NBA history in terms of net rating. And for
he's been cooking.
The overwhelming team success the Thunder have had this season is enough to push Shea into the lead for the MVP. But value isn't just when your team wins. It is how much your team depends on you to win. If we look at each team's net rating when their MVP candidate is on the floor, it is clear that the Thunder are easily the best team in the league when Shai is on the court, with an absurd net rating of plus 18.3. This means that when Shai is on the floor, the Thunder are nearly 20 points better than their opponents per 100 possessions, followed by the Cavs with Mobley, the Cavs with Mitchell, and the Nuggets with Jokic. But the most revealing measure is the difference a player makes for their team when they're on the court versus when they're off the court.
See, and that's the
Jokic jumps out as by far the most valuable and important player.
That's the thing though. Like the Thunder is just a good team in general. Like they're a good young team in general. The Nuggets cannot survive without Jokic
in the entire league.
I think that's what pushes him in this MVP race.
Between the Nuggets being a net negative 8.2 points, bordering the worst team in the NBA, and a plus 10.6, one of the best teams in the NBA. For many of these MVP candidates, their team can still compete at a high level even when they're off the court, like the Celtics without Tatum, the Cavs without Mitchell or without Mobley, the Lakers without LeBron, and the Thunder without Shai. Steph and Giannis are the only other MVP candidates
that makes
their teams from below average to title contenders. But without Jokic on the floor this season, the Nuggets are nearly the worst team in the league. Now, it's worth considering who these players play around when they're on the floor. A rotation that tends to keep starters together is bound to favor those in that starting lineup compared to a rotation that pulls and plugs periodically. For example, if Jokic tends to play with starters more often than not, but SGA is constantly playing with rotational players, Jokic's numbers are going to appear better on paper because he's playing alongside a better group. And so I looked into this. How many possessions these MVP candidates have played this season, and how many of those possessions were exclusively with the starting lineup. And it turns out that Nikola Jokic does have the benefit of playing with the best players on the Nuggets more than any of these other candidates play with theirs. 17% of all of his minutes on the court coming along.
And Steph be running with them bench players too. I ain't gonna lie. Steph be running with the bench squad. I'm not gonna cap to you. And he be cooking with the bench squad, bro. Shout out to him.
The Warriors starting lineup 9% of the time. But in most cases, this number is negligible. For example, Giannis plays with the Bucks starters virtually as much as Jokic plays with his. And at most, the difference in time these
also it depends on the depth of the bench. What's good, Don A? What's good, Don A?
10% of their total playing time. In other words, it doesn't really matter.
Chat, who y'all got winning MVP? Who do y'all think is winning MVP this year? Who do y'all think is winning MVP? Let me know.
For his entire team, significantly more than anyone else in the entire league. In fact, according to Cleaning the Glass, when you translate these on-off splits to an estimation of impact on Denver's record, the Nuggets are a staggering 45 wins better as a team when Jokic is on the floor versus
SGA.
For comparison, Shai's on-court impact on the Thunder projects to them being about 15 wins better as a team.
Wow.
But this is where the discussion becomes a matter of what you value most in your most valuable player. Because
that's why it's a voter set.
The Nuggets to one of the best teams in the league, Shai elevates the Thunder to being one of the best teams of all time.
That's the and see. But this is a great point to bring up. This is a great point to bring up. Like without Jokic, the Nuggets are terrible. With Jokic, they're a great team. Without SGA, the Nuggets are a good team, but with SGA, they become one of the best teams to ever play in the league. Like, my thing is this, like, obviously this right here, I feel like is a key factor in how this vote is going to go. Like, do you value somebody who makes a team really good, or do you value who already can take a good team and push them to be like one of the best teams ever, not just this season, but ever? You know what I mean?
Is it more valuable to drag your team from being bad to being in title contention? Or is it more valuable to elevate your team from title hopefuls to overwhelming title favorites? This is essentially what the MVP race is boiling down to. A player with ungodly numbers propelling his team to compete at a level they have no business being at, or a historically great scoring juggernaut who is the sole leader of the best team in recent history. And the answer to this question may boil down to a third and final ingredient to the MVP award, a factor that is often ultimately decided who has won in the past and will more than likely be the deciding factor this season.
And that factor point being
In ESPN's most recent MVP straw poll, 100 members of the media were asked to cast their vote on who they thought was the MVP of the 2025 NBA season. The results? Within the top 5, Donovan Mitchell received 0 first-place votes. So did Tatum, and so did Giannis. Nikola Jokic received 30, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander received 70 of the 100 first-place votes. So far, the media has spoken, and they think Shai is this season's most valuable player. But in more recent surveys asking players, NBA executives, and NBA analysts, out of the 25 votes that were casted, 18 were in favor of Jokic, and only 7 voted for Shai. Which brings us to our third ingredient in the MVP. Narratives. Beyond what you do on the court, the story has to be in your favor as well. And at the moment, every narrative is beaming directly at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to become this season's most valuable player.
Voter fatigue being one of those stories.
And foremost, he is the best player on the best team, a formula that has led to more MVPs than any other. While Jokic is fighting the uphill battle of voter fatigue, Shai is ripe to receive his first MVP. He's not just having a great season, he's having an all-time great individual season. He plays both sides of the ball. He is the leader of the NBA's brightest young team, and in a league that's been searching for a fresh face, Shai is front and center. SGA has what I consider to be the perfect MVP resume this season. He checks every single box for what you would want in your most valuable player. He has the marquee performances, he has the momentum, he has the caliber, and of course, he's never won it before. But narratives can also lead us astray. They can allow our emotions to dictate how we perceive what we are actually seeing. And that's because precedence gives us points to reference in search for the most fair and
the thing is, Jokic has been balling.
Not be prisoners of the moment, but instead consider the history of the game and the unwritten rules we've abided by up to this point. Precedence tells us that no matter how great a player is, winning 4 MVPs before making it to the finals even twice is completely unheard of, even for the greatest players to ever play. For this same reason, voter fatigue is a frustrating but very real thing. If the MVP award purely went to the most valuable player in the league every season, Michael Jordan and LeBron would each be sitting on about 8 of them right now. Instead, the award sort of blends from one season to the next, taking in the context of everything that came before it and the consequences of it. Decades ago, MVP voters decided that the award was not reserved for the best player or even the player having the best season. Instead, it was an award that had multiple ingredients, multiple boxes that needed to be checked off. But even by their own criteria, what qualified a player to be the MVP was changing all the time. If it was simply the player having the best season, Michael Jordan would have won it about 8 times. If it was the best player on the best team, Michael Jordan would have won it about 8 times. But instead, he has 5, which has essentially set a firm benchmark on how voters vote for the foreseeable future. Voters messed up by not rewarding MJ with the number of MVPs he rightfully earned, and so every player that came after him is held to the same arbitrary, convoluted standard. As one fan put it, sports writers regret not giving Jordan all the MVPs and now punish everyone after that like it's a Supreme Court case and not just something they could change at any time. A case of we do it this way because we've always done it this way. The MVP award should be given to the most valuable player in the league, but it's not quite that simple, and it never has been. To make the argument that Jokic deserves the MVP because he is objectively having the best season in basketball right now would be the most logical conclusion. But it would also be ignoring the 78 years of history, tradition, and expectations that we have come to follow. Based on the responses to this discussion so far, it appears that now more than ever, the players and the people involved in the NBA from game to game view the award as a reflection of simply who is the best.
Oh, that's actually, hold on. You'd have to lean towards SGA from a winning perspective and towards Joker from a basketball perspective. There's also the fatigue thing. This happened with Karl Malone and Michael Jordan. People got tired of voting for Jordan and went, let's go Malone. That could be happening again.
From game to game, view the award as a reflection of simply who is the best, most impactful player. And the media looks at it through the lens more of story and narrative. And in the end, it is the media who gets to vote. With less than a month left in the regular season, the race for the MVP only seems to be getting tighter with each game. And in what is shaping up to be the greatest MVP battle we have ever seen, voters will have to either stay the course and vote for a player that has built a near perfect MVP case, or make a rare exception to a player that is quite possibly having the most impactful individual season in modern NBA history.
This is gonna be so weird. This is gonna be so weird. About time? Yeah, I know it's about time. This is gonna be, bro, this is gonna be such a weird race because to be honest with you, at the end of the day, whichever one that you decide to pick, like someone's going to be mad. Like, it's like Jokic, 30, 20, and 10. How does that not deserve MVP? Like, no player in league history is really putting up 30, 20, and 10, except when Russ won MVP. You feel me? So Jokic should get the award. At the same time, though, it's like SGA is technically the best player on the best team. So that's how we follow the criteria of giving out this award. So I don't know. This is a very interesting back and forth look at it. Me personally, I think it's gonna go to SGA this year. Not saying that Jokic didn't deserve it, because I feel like if you could give it to two people in a season, this would be the year. But I definitely do feel like I gotta give it to SGA. But y'all let me know. All right, y'all let me know what y'all think. Who y'all think should win the MVP? It could go either way. Some people are just gonna get mad whether you choose Jokic or whether you choose SGA. All I'm gonna say, whichever one you do decide to pick, you're not making a bad decision. These are two great players. So shout out Jimmy High Roller. Another amazing video. Shout out to my dog.
Y'all both got Chris. I'm multitasking. Simultaneously, I talk my shit and pop my shit. Get off my dick.